Let me get go with something uncomfortable because the truth usually is clearly, if you have a pension off today, there's a very real chance, something like 70 to 80%, that you're not bring off your retirement the wrong way in a dramatic, obvious sense, but in a softly expensive way. Paraphrase, generally not reckless, not irresponsible, not even careless, just slightly off. The kind of off that aspect perfectly reasonable on report. Really, the sort your advisor might nod approvingly at. The variety that helps you sleep at night. And yet, over 20 old age, it softly cost you 200,000, 300,000, sometimes more. No headlines, no panic, no mistakes you can point to and say, that's where I went wrong. Just a slow leak in a system you thought was airtight. Besides, and here's the part that stings a little more than it should, sometimes it's not the marketplace. It's not fees. It's not bad luck. It's that you're planning your retirement ilk somebody who doesn't have a pension off fundamentally evening, though you do. The metaphor that changes everything. Before we go any further, I lack to spring you a mental theoretical account because once this clicks, everything else starts to brand sense. A pension isn't a bonus. Basically, it's not a side benefit. It's not extra income. A pension off is a floor. Without question, solid, immovable, dependable ground beneath your feet. Indeed, it's the money that exhibits up whether the marketplace crashes 40%, inflation spikes, or the latest CANT misinvestment twist out to be noise. That floor is there month after calendar month, 12-month after 12-month. Think about it this way. And yet, what do most people do after they build up that floor? Think about it this way. They start edifice another floor. They deal bond. They add conservative funds. They pile on CDs and low-yield safe investment. Paraphrase, bed after layer of protective covering, until one day they're standing on 4 layers of concrete and wondering why their financial living never really grew. Indeed, here's the line I want you to remember. The reality is the floor isn't your ceiling. Why this mistake is everywhere? Certainly, let's zoom out for a second. Pensions aren't rare, but they're not universal either. Naturally, in the private sector, only about 15% of workers have one. Also, in the public sector, teachers, government workers, military, that number leaped to about 80% plus. Paraphrase, mission of millions of citizenry walking around with something incredibly useful and managing it like it does inexistent. The reality is, why? Because almost all financial advice today is built for people without guaranteed income. So what pass off? You inherit a framework that was ne'er designed for you. No doubt, and instead of adjusting it, you follow it faithfully, consistently, expensively. Sometimes the first big mistake, plain too safe. Besides, let's talking about the most common issue, your investment allocation. No doubt you've heard the rule as you get older, you should become more conservative. The truth is, maybe even your age should equal your bond percentage. So at 60 years old, you hold 60% bonds. At 65, it becomes 65%. It sounds responsible. It's spirit responsible. But here's the job. Besides, that advice assumes your investment portfolio is your only paycheck. The reality is naturally, and for kind of many people, that's true. Obviously, but for you, it's not because your pension off is already doing the job bonds are supposed to do. Let's break that down. What are bonds really for? Stability, predictable income, protection from market swings. Indeed, now think about your pension off. Stable? Yes. Predictable? Yes. Independent of the stock market? Absolutely. Here's why this matters. When you load your portfolio with bonds on top of that, you're duplicating the same function. So, importantly, it's ilk buying flood insurance for a house built on a mountain. It sounds smarting, but it's unnecessary. And over time, it's expensive. The price of feeling safe. Let us make this real. Imagine this. You withdraw at 63, your pension off salary $3,200 a calendar month. That's about $38,000 a 12-month. Sometimes sociable protection late adds another $27,000. Plus, your basic expenses around $66,000 per year. On top of that, that means your income is already covering most of your living. Your portfolio, it's not your survival tool. It's your growth engine. The reality is, or else of treating it that way, you park half of it in bonds, gain perhaps 4%. On top of that, now comparison that to investing for growth at 8%. Think about it this way. That difference, just 4% over 20 years, it can easily price you hundreds of $1,000 of dollars, not from a bad decision, from a misaligned one. Paraphrase, naturally here it gets elusive because nobody tells you explicitly this. You do not get a warning that say, hey, this advice doesn't apply to your situation. Definitely, or else everything looks normal, safe, responsible for, basically. And that's precisely why it's dangerous. What we're seeing is, because the large financial mistakes aren't the ones that feel damage, they're the ones that tone right. A improved way to conceive about it, there's a concept in professional invest called asset liability matching. It merely way your investment should reflect more or less what you really need to fund. Plus, so if your pension already covert most of your expenses, then your portfolio isn't there to protect your life. Look, it's there to enhance it. That's an entirely alternative job, and it requires a completely distinct scheme. But what if my pension fails? This is where people hesitate, and it is a fun, fair question. Interestingly, what if the pension gets cut? What if something goes damage? Let's be honest. Here's the deal. Yes, pension off can be underfunded. Yes, some have faced reduction. Obviously, but total collapse, that's extremely rare. What's more realistic? Partial reductions, gradual changes, adjustments over clip, not a sudden disappearance? Paraphrase. So instead of planning ilk, your pension off will go to zero. A smarter approach is to hedge realistically. And here's the thing. Prepare for a 20 to 30% reduction, not 100%. Surprisingly, because planning for some failure leads you right back to the same mistake, building some other unneeded flooring. And then comes the tax trap. Now, this is where things essentially transmutation from inefficient to softly painful. To be honest, it costs you taxes because the next mistake doesn't just price you growth. And most people don't see it coming. Let me put it this way. In fact, the tax trap, nobody explains clearly. Let's talk about something that sounds boring until it prices you tens of thousands of dollars. Tax. More specifically, the way your pension off softly reshapes your tax hereafter. Sometimes because for ELD, you probably did exactly what you were told. Contribute to your traditional 401k, let down your non-exempt income, defer taxes until retirement. The thing is, that's been the standard playbook for decades. And to be fair, it works until it doesn't. Here's where the logic breaks. On top of that, the entire idea behind tax deferment is simpleton. You'll be in a lower tax bracket in retirement. But if you have a pension off, that assumption beginning to fall apart because your pension off doesn't wait. It shows up on day one of retirement as taxable income. Here's the bottom line. Surprisingly, and it fills up your lowest tax bracket before your 401k money even enters the picture. Let's walk through it. Imagine this. Pension off, $38,000 per 12 month. Often societal security later, $27,000 per 12 month. Paraphrase. Generally, that's already about $65,000 in income before you touch your 401k. On top of that now, enter required minimum distributions, RMDs. At age 73, essentially, the IRS says clip to start withdrawing. Notably, so now you're squeezed to pull, say, $15,000 from your retirement account. Naturally, and just like that, your income jumps to $80,000 asset, which means you're probable in a higher tax angle bracket. Paraphrase, here's the bottom line. Every dollar from your 401k is taxed more heavily. And you've lost the very vantage tax deferral promised, not because you make a fault. Additionally, because no one showed you how the pieces interact, the shift that changes everything. Once you see this, the strategy turns obvious. On top of that, if your hereafter tax brackets are already occupied by your pension, then deferring more income into the future may not help you. In fact, it can hurt you. So what's the alternative? Pay some tax now strategically? The Roth advantage when you have a pension. If your employer offers a Roth 401k, this is where it starts to matter because Roth contributions are taxed today, grow tax-free, and come out tax-free in retirement, which means they don't stack on top of your pension off. Certainly, they don't pushing you into higher brackets. They give you flexibility. And in retirement, flexibleness is power. No doubt the hidden window most people fill. Frankly, there's another opportunity most people overlook entirely. Let me put it this way. It's what I call the gap years. Think about it this way. Naturally, that period between when you retire and when societal security begins, generally, during those ELD, your income might be surprisingly low, maybe just your pension off, which could put you in a letdown tax bracket than you'll ever see again. The reality is, and that's your second, this is where smart planning pays off. During those gap years, you can convert portions of your 401k into a Roth IRA, pay tax at, say, 12% instead of 22% or 24% later. It's not flashy. It's not exciting. Honestly, but overclip, it can add up to 10 of thousands in saved tax, not from guessing market, from apprehension timing. Now, let me tell you about Marcus because this is where theory meets reality. Marcus wasn't careless. He wasn't uninformed. He did what most people would call everything right. He worked almost 3 decades in public education. He solved consistently. Sometimes he built up a pension off that paid him about $41,000 a year. He had a 401k worth over $300,000, and he kept $60,000 in cash just in case. Certainly, on paper, Marcus looked like the definition of prepared. When someone actually sat down and looked at his full image, the cracks started to show. The subtle misalignments. Marcus had nearly one half his portfolio in bond, a large hard currency reserve sitting idle for over a decade, and a plan to claim Social Security early at 62, and yet. Think about it this way, each more or less decision made signified an isolation, but together they told a separate story, which meant he didn't need that much in bond. His cash wasn't really emergency, it was stagnation, because Marcus, pension off, already covered most of his expenses. In claiming sociable protection early permanently reduced his income. That last one alone, it cost him about $80,000 over his lifetime. Not from risk, from caution. The moment everything clicked, what altered for Marcus wasn't a new product. The truth is, clearly, it basically was on a better investing. It was a new apprehension. Often, he realized something simple but powerful. My pension changed the rules and I ne'er updated my strategy. That's it. That's the whole shift. The conclusion most people rush. Now here's where it gets good. Plus, now let's talking about one of the large moments in your fiscal life and one of the most rushed. Notably, the selection between a monthly pension payment, renta, or a glob sum. The thing is, this isn't a small decision. This is a once-in-a-lifetime fork in the road. And yet, many citizenry make it in under an hour. The default solution, and why it's not always right, most plans gently push you toward the rent. What's more, it feels safe, predictable, hands-off, and for many people, it's a good choice, but not for everyone. What the lump sum genuinely represents. The lump sum gives you control, flexibility, growing potential, the power to pass wealth to your family. Let me put it this way, but it also requires responsibility. And that's where fear creeps in. Let's compare. Simply option A, $2,100 per calendar month for living. Actually, choice B, $350,000 lump sum. If invested wisely, even at moderate returns, the lump sum can generate similar income, continue growing, and potentially leave a legacy. The rente, on the other hand, guarantees income but ends with you. There's no universal right answer, only the answer that fits your living, the real number job. The thing is, the issue is not that people choose the annuity, it's that they take it without truly understanding the separate. And that's not a financial job. That's a decision-making problem. Really the advantage you're not utilize. Now, let's bring it all together because there's one final idea that ties everything we've discussed into a single insight. And it's this. Clearly, you have something most retirees do want. Not just income, not just protection. Surprisingly, you have CLIP and patience as fiscal tools. The sequence of return secret. Plus, one of the large risks in retirement is something named sequence of return peril. It means bad market tax return early in retirement can for good damage your portfolio because you're hailed to draw back money while it's down. But here's the thing. Think about it this way. You're not forced to withdraw if you have a pension off. You can let markets recover. Here's the bottom line. Usually, you can more or less flush invest more when prices are low. That's not just an advantage. That's a superpower. And yet most pension holders do not use it. They stay conservative. The truth is they avoid volatility. They protect against a risk they've already solved. Look, while standing on dry land, it's ilk wearing a living jacket. Why this happens? Notably because this isn't just math. It is psychology. When citizenry feel ilk, they finally have enough, they protect it at all cost. Certainly, even if that protective cover quietly costs them growth, even if it limits their future, even if it turns their story into their ceiling. So, what should you actually do? But here's what's interesting. Let's make this practical. Here's clear steps. Now, here's where it gets good. Know your coverage ratio. Add up your guarantee income, pension, mixer protection, anything else fixed. Compare it to your expenses. Paraphrase, here's the deal. If it covers 60% or more, you likely do in demand as many bond as you think. Rethink tax early. Paraphrase, definitely, if you're still working, consider more Roth contributions. Clearly, if you're retired but not on social protection yet, use that window for Roth conversions. Look, don't let taxation surprise you ulterior. Here's why this matters. Treat big decisions ilk there. If you're offered a lump sum, don't rushing it. Don't non-payment. Don't guess. Model it. Understand it. Own the decision. You spent decades earning your pension off. It's not just another line item. The reality is, it's not just income. So what does this mean? It's use. It gives you freedom, flexibility, and the ability to take a different path than most citizenry. Usually, but only if you use it that way. The biggest peril is not losing money because at the end of the day, paraphrase, the Nair is fully using what you already have. And that's why this matters. The flooring isn't your ceiling. Not unless you decide it.